Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post. Colleges panic will lose billions in federal money if they stay woke. There's a new sheriff in town coming into the White House. There will not be the same level of funding and support for colleges and universities that try to push a woke agenda. Some of these institutions get more money from the federal government than they actually raise in tuition. So it's a lot of money, it's a lot of change, and it's coming at them like a freight train. From Fox News, colleges raking in millions in federal dollars hold their breath as Trump vows to shake up U.S. education. And from the Gateway Pundit, woke colleges and universities panic that Trump is going to take a wrecking ball to higher education. Well, he's not going to destroy higher education, but he is going to put it back in its proper place. Billions of American taxpayer dollars have helped fund many of the colleges and universities at the center of woke DEI initiatives and campus protests. President-elect Donald Trump's decisive victory has colleges and universities on high alert after he vowed to take on higher education as part of his plan to overhaul the U.S. education system. And one thing to know about these colleges and universities, when it comes to money, that gets their attention. If you're going to take away their money, if you're going to tax their endowments, if you're going to put them in jeopardy of losing any amount of money, they immediately cave. U.S. universities have come under scrutiny in recent months for their lackluster response to anti-Semitism as protests and encampments overtook campuses nationwide amid the ongoing war in Gaza. Many universities chose to look the other way, prompting a mass exodus by donors who withdrew millions in grants and severed relationships with their alma maters. The same universities, meanwhile, continue to rake in billions in U.S. taxpayer-backed federal funds. Since 2018, $33 billion of federal contracts and grants have been handed to a handful of elite universities, averaging $6.6 billion annually, according to an open-the-book study from last year. Some universities even collected more money in federal dollars than they did in tuition payments in a single year, according to an audit done by the government watchdog. That's a lot of money. If you were to take away all their tuitions, it would be less money than they're getting in federal dollars. Now you've got their attention. Trump has repeatedly targeted colleges and universities on the campaign trail, pledging to free higher learning in America from the grip of what he called Marxist maniacs. His platform for 2024 calls for deporting pro-Hamas radicals and make our college campuses safe and patriotic again. Trump has also vowed to combat wokeness and progressive culture in education, repeatedly railing against DEI initiatives which he believes are inadvertently discriminatory. But they are deliberately discriminatory. They just redefine the word racist, they redefine the word discriminatory, and the colleges say, hey, look, it's not discriminatory. We redefine the word to make it progressive. That actually doesn't fool most people. Most people do understand that if you exclude people of a certain skin color, sexual preference, race, even gender or religion, then that's discriminatory. And that's what's getting fixed. In July, Trump said that he would advance a measure to have schools, quote, find up to the entire amount of their endowment if they do not desist DEI programs that engage in explicit unlawful discrimination under the guise of equity. He has also threatened to withhold federal dollars from schools that play a role in online censorship as part of his plan to shatter the left-wing censorship regime. Trump's crusade to reshape education could signify a shakeup in the billions of federal dollars given to colleges across the country annually. In fiscal year 2023 alone, more than $5 billion worth of taxpayer dollars were given to Ivy League schools through sponsorship, grants, and contracts, according to Fox News Digital. Here's a bunch of the schools that got the most money. And keep in mind the money listed for each of these schools does not include federal funding designed for student financial aid or account for federal tax breaks on their endowments. First up is Harvard. Harvard collected $676 million in federal dollars last year, accounting for roughly 66% of the school's total sponsored revenue for 2023, according to its annual financial report. Harvard, which has received billions of dollars in federal funds in recent years, has been under the microscope for its lackluster response to anti-Semitism on campus promoted by the war in Gaza. GOP lawmakers have called for tightening the valve on federal funds for the university until it takes meaningful action to protect Jewish students. Like many other higher learning institutions, Harvard heavily relies on government funding. Between 2018 and 2022, the university amassed over $3 billion in total federal payments, including federal grants and contracts, according to an analysis. Harvard also acquired generous tax breaks from the government on its endowment during the same time. And how about Columbia? In 2023 through 2024, Columbia University received $1.3 billion in government grants and contracts, with at least $800 million of that being research grants, according to the Stand Columbia Society. $800 million in research grants? Here, do whatever you want. Pursue these projects. Here's $800 million. Have a great time. Stand Columbia Society, a group comprised of alumni and former Columbia professors, conducted an analysis into how a Trump presidency might impact the university's overall budget, concluding that $3.5 billion, or roughly 55% of Columbia's $6.4 billion in operating budget, depends on federal government funding and, quote, is exposed to institutional risk, with $250 million to $1.3 billion at risk in the short term under a Trump administration. The society pleaded with the schools to enforce campus rules and hold students and staff accountable to prevent Trump from withholding federal funding by accusing the university of violating Title VII. Columbia dominated headlines earlier this year as the scene of some of the most high-profile anti-Israel unrest, hosting days-long encampments and protests that led to violence, canceled classes, and arrests. The House Committee on Education and the Workforce concluded in a recent report that the university was, quote, the site of some of the most disturbing and extreme anti-Semitic conduct violations in the country. At the time, numerous politicians called for an end to federal cash for the New York City-based university, noting that billions of American taxpayer dollars have contributed to the Ivy League, accused of allowing anti-Israel radicals to run amok with little intervention or discipline by leadership. House Republicans pushed for legislation to force Columbia and other colleges to be transparent about their policies regarding campus protests. The bill, titled No Tax Dollars for College Encampments Act, would amend the Higher Education Act of 1965 to require universities that receive federal funds to disclose what kind of policies they have to deal with civil disturbances on campus and how they enforce those rules. And by amending that act, by making additional requirements to disclose, like, well, what do you consider to be inappropriate behavior from these students? And when these disturbances happen, how do you promise to deal with it? And then when we give you any funds or contracts, we're going to hold you to at least your own policies. That gives Congress a little bit more backing and a little bit more leverage because it would be written into law. And at the University of Pennsylvania, the University of Pennsylvania was awarded over $936 million in federal dollars for research alone in fiscal year 2023, with large sum grants from NASA, the Department of Defense, the Department of Energy, and others, according to the school's website. During the same time, UPenn also collected $703 million in NIH funding. The school emerged as an epicenter of anti-Israel protests and encampments, dominating headlines for failing to take sufficient action to protect Jewish students from anti-Semitism on campus. Donors withdrew their donations in droves and demanded the resignation of UPenn President Liz McGill, who left her post in December 2023. The school's handling of the protests prompted some lawmakers to question whether universities that don't do enough to restrain anti-Semitic actions on campuses should have their tax-exempt statuses revoked. And over at Yale, Yale received approximately $776 million in 2023. U.S. lawmakers called on Trump to strip the school of federal funding in 2019 after it was accused of targeting religious students for special disfavor. DEI initiatives have been championed by the school, prompting a group of Yale faculty members to urge leadership to return to its core mission of education. The Ivy League was also criticized for its handling of the anti-Israel protests earlier this year. And over at Cornell, the Ithaca-based university received approximately $736 million in 2023, the same year that then President Martha Pollock shared her gratitude for anti-Israel agitators, thanking them for remaining peaceful and nonviolent as protesters ravaged the campus and threatened Jewish students. Like other Ivy Leagues, Cornell lost major donors over its handling of the protests and embrace of DEI initiatives, with one prominent benefactor urging the university to abandon its misguided commitment to DEI because its embrace of such initiatives has yielded disgrace rather than excellence. While Ivy League universities are major recipients of federal funding, public universities have also received a stunning amount of money from federal programs and grants. According to Open the Books, the University of Michigan is on pace to collect $704 million this year. The school recently came under fire for its emphasis on DEI initiatives after Black students told the New York Times Magazine that the program was a well-meaning failure and superficial at its core. The University of Wisconsin is also on track to collect $628 million this year. UC San Francisco received $562 million from the federal budget in 2023. The USCF School of Medicine received the most funding from the National Institutes of Health of any public university that same year, totaling over $789 million, according to the university website. UCSF faced backlash in February after it hosted a speaker who suggested whites were psychopathic as part of a Black History Month event. The speaker's other comments included claiming that anti-Blackness is the foundation of all American, all-white American institutions. Trump is tough on DEI. Trump is tough on these anti-Israel protests as well. He's made his position clear that all of this really needs to stop. It's not going to be tolerated. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another story. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.